G'day folks, it's Will here from Flow Mountain Bike, and here we have the 2023 Canyon Neuron. Now while this bike does look a lot like its predecessor, it is entirely new for this year. It features a lighter frame, improvements to the hardware and suspension, and it features some welcome updates to the geometry. Now that's all well and good, but it's no secret that the Canyon full suspension lineup is looking pretty chock-a-block these days. So how does this new Neuron compare to the latest Lux Trail and Spectral 125, and how does it compare to the old version? We've been testing this Canyon Neuron for the past month to find out. The Canyon Neuron is a mid-travel trail bike. It's got 140mm travel fork on the front and 130mm of rear travel courtesy of a 4-bar suspension design. Canyon tailors the Neuron's wheels depending on the frame size, so the extra small and small come with 27.5-inch wheels, whereas the medium and above come with 29-inch wheels. Now with those specs, the Canyon Neuron sits in a similar space to bikes like the Specialized Stumpjumper, the Giant Trance 29, the Norco Fluid and the Trek Fuel EX. Now when the previous generation Canyon Neuron launched back in 2018, its geometry was pretty conservative even at the time. The new bike aims to address this by slackening out the head angle by 1.5 degrees. That's now 66 degrees. The reach is also significantly longer. On the medium, that grows from 433 to 455 millimeters. To compensate for the longer top tube, Canyon is speccing the Neuron with a 10mm shorter stem, and it's also steepened the seat angle by 1.5 degrees. That's now 76 degrees. Also welcome is a 20mm reduction in seat tube lengths across the board. The carbon Neuron frames also feature a straight seat tube, which allows for maximum seat post insertion. As a result, you'll find up to 170mm travel dropper post spec'd on the size small, which is fantastic. Thanks to the slimmer and straighter tube profiles, the carbon Neuron frame is said to be 200 grams lighter than its predecessor, which is impressive given how much longer it is. Things are considerably beefier around the BB junction though, which features a wider main pivot in order to bolster lateral rigidity through the rear end. The Neuron is also now finally 1-by specific, which does feel like an odd feature to talk about in 2023, and it also updates to the wider 55mm chain line. Canyon's engineers have used this extra clearance to make the chainstays quite thick and boxy in order to increase overall strength and stiffness. The maximum recommended rear tyre width is still a fairly conservative 2.4 inches, but there is gobs of mud clearance back there. In a sign of the times, the carbon Neuron frame has embraced fully internal cable routing, with the lines entering the frame through the upper headset. The execution is admittedly quite neat, with the rubberized ports providing a tight seal to help prevent water and contaminants making their way through to the bearings. Canyon has also incorporated internal guide tubes throughout the frame, so you simply push a cable in at the dropout and it should pop out up at the head tube. Other features include a squishy bolt-on chainstay protector which provides a lot more coverage than before, an integrated chain guide and bolt-on down tube armor. Now there are no fewer than 11 models in the 2023 Canyon Neuron lineup, and prices are going to start at around $2.5 grand for the Neuron Young Hero model. The bike that we've been testing over the past month sits one step down from the top of the range. This is the Canyon Neuron CF9 SL, and the current price on this is 7,399 Australian dollars plus shipping to get it to your door. This bike features a full carbon frame with a Fox Factory Series suspension package with a 34 fork and a float DPS shock. It's got a SRAM GX Axis drivetrain with code RSC brakes, a DT Swiss XMC 1501 carbon wheel set, and Schwalbe tyres with a 2.4-inch knobby nick on the front and a 2.4-inch wicked wheel on the back. Confirmed weight for our Canyon Neuron test bike is 12.86 kilograms, which as usual is weighed without pedals and with the tyres set up tubeless. To suit our 165 to 175 centimetre tall testers, we went for a medium size in the Neuron. Straight away, we found the new bike to feel much more contemporary than the outgoing model, with the front wheel sticking out much further ahead from the rider. Despite the longer reach though, the effective cockpit length isn't all that different thanks to the steeper seat angle and the shorter stem. It's still roomy and reasonably upright, though you're simply positioned more centrally within the cockpit. The 76-degree seat angle is spot on. It provides a more stable seater position on the climbs without being so steep as to cause excess wrist pressure when riding along the flats. While we really like the 760mm riser bars, it's worth noting that the fork steerer has been cut fairly short on this bike, which limits the adjustment range when dialing in your grip height. As such, riders who want a taller position will need to fit a higher rise handlebar. Conversely, the headset cable routing means things get a little bit squishy if you do want to slam the stem. Otherwise, we were thrilled to see a 170mm travel dropper post on our test bike, which I was able to fully exploit thanks to the short and straight seat tube. On the trail, the first thing we noticed about the Canyon Neuron is how light, fast and efficient it is. While many trail bikes are getting quite burly and heavy these days, in contrast the Neuron feels peppy and enthusiastic thanks to its respectable weight, its stiff carbon wheels and its speedy tyres. There's minimal rolling resistance from the firm Addex speed grip rubber compound, and the ramp tread on the wicked wheel on the rear adds a noticeable turn of speed when accelerating. This sensation is complemented by the Neuron's efficient pedaling performance. There's minimal pedal bob, even with the shock's compression set wide open. The only time we used the blue compression lever was on steeper gradients where the shock would sit a little bit into its travel. On those climbs, flipping the blue lever into the middle trail position was less about boosting pedal efficiency and more about lifting the bike's overall dynamic ride height. The lever is super easy to reach since it's down by your knees, and as a result, we found ourselves using it regularly in order to tweak the suspension on the fly. On the descents, the longer and slacker front end provides more confidence and greater stability at speed. However, it's not so slack as to make it floppy and awkward on undulating terrain. Going up or down, we never felt like we had to excessively weight either end of the bike, with the overall distribution feeling neutral and easy to control. Indeed, the handling has been one of our favourite attributes of the Neuron, which seems to handle a variety of situations really well. On swoopier trails, it skillfully threads its way through tighter corners, with the stiff chassis and carbon wheels giving it terrific precision. We've never felt like we've had to fight over or understeer, and that makes the Neuron a really easy and intuitive bike to ride. The long stroke dropper post is also a boon on modern flow trails, giving you a heap of room to move around the cockpit. The top tube is low slung, while the slim linkage and the narrow frame profile reduces the chance of you catching your knee pads or your baggy shorts. As a result, you can really lean the bike over when required, and it also lets you get right off the back when pointing down steeper chutes. Combined with its comfortable riding position, we found the Neuron to be a loyal and versatile partner for taking on long backcountry trail rides. On rockier trails, however, the Neuron does transmit more feedback than we'd like. There's a noticeable degree of chatter, and that makes it difficult to hold a line when things get rowdy and off camber. This boils down to a combination of factors, with the stiff carbon rims being one of them. We've ridden these DT Swiss wheels on a variety of bikes over the last couple of years, and while they are tough and very responsive, they don't offer a lot of compliance. This will be less of an issue for heavier riders, though our sub 70 kilo test riders found them to ping around a bit when pummeling the bike through chunkier rock gardens. The fork's Fit 4 damper is also stickier and less sensitive compared to the alternative Grip or Grip 2 damper. It's still a good fork, it just doesn't deliver the same comfort and traction, and that leads to less confidence and control on the descents. The other issue is the tyre's firm rubber compound, which doesn't offer a lot of damping. While efficient and hard wearing, the tyres struggle to hold on rocky slabs and they lack traction in the wet. They're perfectly fine on softer loam, and they are a big contributor to the Neuron's zippy character on hard-packed surfaces. But for our local trails, where things are often loose, dusty and rocky, we'd like to swap these out for something burlier and stickier. Now, we mention these issues because the Neuron is otherwise a very capable trail bike. The geometry and riding position are fantastic, and the big brakes provide a load of stopping power which suits high-speed trail riding. Indeed, there's plenty of potential here to be tapped into for those who are willing to adapt some of the spec. We do understand why Canyon has kept the Neuron on the lighter side though, which is to better separate it from the more aggressive Spectral 125. And it has to be said that this is a fantastically speedy and efficient bike in its stock configuration. Indeed, we see it being a great step-up option for someone who already has an XC bike, but is looking for something with more travel and capability without the added heft that normally comes with it. Now, as mentioned earlier, the new Canyon Neuron does arrive in a somewhat crowded full suspension lineup, which does make things a little confusing for potential customers. To help provide some context on some of the bikes that we've tested previously, we've put a detailed comparison between the Neuron and the Spectral 125 and the Lux Trail in the full review over at flowmountainbike.com. We've also pitched the Neuron against the specialized Stumpjumper, so if you're keen to see how all of those bikes compare, then make sure you click the link in the video description below. As for our verdict on the Canyon Neuron, well, thanks to its contemporary frame and geometry, this is a much improved trail bike over its predecessor. It's calmer and more stable at speed, and we love that it comes with a properly long travel dropper post. It's still a well-rounded trail bike though, offering intuitive handling on tight single track and fantastic efficiency on big mountain climbs. The low weight is certainly appealing, and it helps to set the Neuron apart from some of its peers, which seem to be getting heavier every year. We did find it to be a little bit chattery and unsettled on rockier terrain, and the firm compound tyres lack bite in loose conditions. Now, it's worth noting that the Neuron CF8 does come with alloy wheels and a Fox Performance Series fork with a grip damper, which will provide a plusher and more compliant ride quality. As such, that's the model that we'd go for if it were our money. Regardless, if you're after a speedy and lightweight trail bike to embark on map-crossing adventures, the Canyon Neuron is a fantastic value-packed option. Now, as mentioned before, there is a load more information about our experience of testing this bike over at flowmountainbike.com. As always, if you guys have any questions for us, drop those into the comments below and I'll do my best to answer them for you. Otherwise, I hope you've enjoyed this video and we'll see you next time. Tooroo!